Okay, so first we're going to make a console application. So do File, New, Project. Okay, then Visual C Sharp Console App. So Visual C Sharp Console App. Click OK, and make sure it's .NET Framework. Okay, so there's our console application. So next we're going to give it the ability to open the console and say something, and then we're going to make it be able to leave the console open. So we're going to use console write line, and we're just going to say OK. And I'm doing this so that we can differentiate it from the other work we're going to do. And then we're going to do console read key. And console read key keeps the console open. Otherwise, without this, it would write the line and then close the console window. So let's run this. Okay, so there's our console window with our console application. And this is where we're going to work. Okay, so we're going to add a class where the delegate is going to work from. So let's do that. So we're going to add a class. We call it my work class because this is where all the work is going to take place. And the idea of this class is that it's going to do a lot. And it's going to do a lot that's going to do a lot of work that's going to like delay and delay and delay. And we're going to see how a delegate can do a callback while it's in the middle of doing that work. So inside the class, we're going to add a method. And we're going to call it myDoAndDelay. And this is where all the work is going to take place, and this is where we will call back from. So let's actually run this to check the syntax. Okay, so there's our OK. And we're not really calling anything, but we're just making sure that it's actually correct. Okay, so we're going to make the delegate do a callback. And so we're going to do a callback. And so we need a function that will actually be doing a lot of work and that we want to report back to us what it's doing. Okay, so we're going to put a for loop in here. And pretty much this is where we'll be doing a lot of stuff. And you can see the for loop is going from 0 to an enormous number. And while we're working, we'll make it do console write line so we can actually see that it's working. Okay, so now that we have our class and our function that's doing a lot of work, let's actually call it from the main now. So we're going to put it into an object and instantiate it as new. So we're going to say my work class and call it my object equals new and my work class. Okay, so this is my work class, and here's our function that's doing a lot of stuff, and here's where we're actually calling it, and we're saving it into this object right here. Okay, now that we have it in an object, my work class, let's actually call the function that's doing a lot of work, of course. And when we call this function, we should now see that this is going to be writing to the console a lot of times. And so it'll be a very busy function. Okay, so let's run this, and we'll see that we'll actually run my work class, and we'll run our new function called myDoAndDelay. And so we'll see that this is doing a lot of work. So give it a start. And there it is, it's doing a lot of work. And so as it's doing this work, we want it to report back to us what it's doing, but we don't want to report it here because we might want to do a lot more stuff with what it reports back. So inside here, inside of our class, okay, we're going to add the delegate. And the delegate is going to report back to the calling module, which is actually the main. So this is where the delegate's going to go. and I'm going to call it my callback pointer. Because the essence of the delegate is that it's actually a pointer to another function. Okay, let's give it a run to check the syntax. And it's running. So there's our delegate, we've added it, and we'll add more to it later, but that's pretty much the basic. Okay, so we're going to make the function that the delegate is going to point to. So let's do that. So we're going to go up here above the main, and in the same class program, we're going to add a function right here. And if you notice, it's a static, which means that you can't instantiate it with the new keyword. So normally we would actually have no way of getting to it as far as using it as a new object, but because we're going to use the delegate will know the address of the function, and that's how we'll be able to get to it. Okay. So you see I called it my callback catcher because this is where we're going to take this delegate and we're going to point this delegate to this function, and that's why it's a catcher. So just to have something in there, because this will be a placeholder, but this is where the I is going to end up, the int, and so this is where it's going to be. Right now it's not going to run, but we'll just put it in there with nothing, and we're going to run it just to make sure the syntax is okay. And there it is, it's still running. And then we're next going to take it and we're going to call it, and we're going to send the I to it. Okay, so we're going to send back this int. We're going to send back an I, and that's what we're going to pass to the callback catcher. Okay, so now let's start bringing in the int so that it can actually move around. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make this use an int, and it's going to be int I, and we're going to write that out. Okay, so you'll see that once we hook this up, we'll have to do it when we send it and when we send it back. Okay, so let's make sure this still runs and everything's good. Now let's set up our work function and the delegate to actually work with the int. So this is where we'll put the int I. Okay, and so the next thing we have to do is we have to point the function. We have to make it work with the delegate. And so we're going to bring it into an object. So when we come in here, we're going to pass the function in, and it's going to work with this my callback pointer. And my callback pointer is now going to work with the int. So here we have it now into the object, and we're going to say new object, and we're going to pass the I. Okay. Okay, so we no longer need this here because now we're going to be writing inside our catcher function. So we're no longer going to be sending the message here because now we're going to send the call back to through the delegate. Okay, so now that we're going to pass it back to the delegate, we need to actually match this now to this. So here's what we have to do. We're going to pass in this function, and this function, once it gets passed in, we'll give it the address of this function. Okay, so now we'll pass it into here, and actually everything should run now. So we're going to actually say here, okay, plus I, just to prove that we're actually getting up there. And you can see we have nothing printing here now. So let's run this. Okay, so now what's happening is here's our catcher function. We send it to the work function. The work function uses the delegate with it, which gives it the pointer, the address of the catcher function, and then we have it in the object. We send it the I. The I comes in here, and then we print here. And that's it. You've made your first delegate.